and welcome to the lobby, GameSpot's weekly hangout. Oh my God, we're back, right? It's all good. Hey, don't worry about it. Hello and welcome to the lobby, GameSpot's weekly hangout every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific right here on GameSpot.com. I'm your host, Danny Dwyer, fresh back from Germany, full of pork knuckle, Weiss beer, and God knows what else. And I'm joined by Alex Newhouse.
Hey, Danny.
You're only with us for another week, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Intern, another summer. Did a great job.
Thank you.
Could fuck it up right now, though, so we'll see. Eric Tay.
What up?
How you doing?
Doing all right.
Sweet shirt.
Oh, thanks.
You always wear a nice shirt when you're going to be on the lobby.
I have to now. You know, it's trying to step up the game in the office here. We got to get a little bit, slightly more professional.
It makes me look
business
bad.
cash.
I stepped on my game to match you a little bit.
Oh, thanks.
Great.
Yeah.
This is the only piece of clothing I have that's washed after spending a week in Europe. So that's why I'm wearing that one.
Glad you're clean.
You two are here, which means we're talking about one particular game.
Can only be that game.
Yeah, last time we guys had you on, we had a great chat about Destiny. Now we're going to have another one. The Taken King is out in just a couple of weeks. September, right around the corner. Not only is it bringing, obviously, a bunch more content for the low price of $40, but on the day of release, there's also going to be a patch coming out for all Destiny players. It's going to change up a bunch of stuff. Let's talk about that first. So the first thing we know is that Dinklebot's out and Nolan North's in. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's great. Like Peter Dinklage is a good actor. Wasn't great in Destiny, and for them to get Nolan North, someone who's tried and true in video games, like that just seems like a good move for them. They're going back and completely scrapping Dinklage from the entire game, going back and replacing every single line that the Ghost says with Nolan North. It's a little aggressive.
Rewriting history.
Yeah, it's a little aggressive. Kind of feel bad for Dinklage, but at the same time, it makes sense, and I feel like Nolan North will do a better job. Okay,
another big change. Light is being completely scrapped in terms of, well, it's not being scrapped, but in terms of XP progression, past level 20, just like pre-level 20, your XP will be gotten directly from quests, sort of in line with most other MMOE type character level online games. Tay, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think, looking back at, original Destiny and thinking of just how light level worked, it was kind of a little bit confusing at first. It's like, oh, I kind of hit max level, but it's not really max level because gear takes me to this higher level. So now, like you said, it's going back to a traditional kind of style where it's all experience based and all the armor and weapons you get will just make you a stronger Guardian. So it's like, as you progress through the game, it's like, okay, I got raid tier armor that has 100 or 300 more armor than my last armor. It's easier to understand. And I think the interesting thing too, coming out of that for me is this kind of gonna start this whole thing with Trials of Osiris, which is their new kind of PvP mode, with what WoW did, which is like, now we can balance for PvP and for PvE because we can give special stats to PvP and like, here's different gear that's like specifically for PvP. That's what I'm kind of interested about. They haven't talked about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's something like that.
Is there any more little changes? I know like you won't have to go back to the tower as much with bounties and quests and whatnot. Is there anything else they're doing that's kind of jumped out to you, or are they the two main ones with that update specifically?
I mean, I think like the HUD overhaul is incredibly important as well because it's just like they're making it so that you can track the progress in your quests and your bounties on the HUD itself, which is huge. Like you don't have to pop up the menu during play sessions and stuff. Not having to go back to the tower is also really essential. But really, the light level overhaul is probably the biggest change that they're making to this.
You two are big fans of Destiny. I'm going to throw this little devil's advocate thing out there. It's great. Like it's like I always, my WoW is a big sort of like touchstone for me with this sort of stuff. Whenever a big expansion pack comes out, they always launch a sort of a big patch around that time as well, where they kind of update a bunch of stuff for everybody else. Isn't the fact that they're going back and like rewriting the main story character in this game, and isn't the fact that they're like getting rid of this pretty like fundamental aspect of their progression, doesn't that sort of mostly show you that the game they made last year wasn't that good? Like they're changing fundamental parts of the game.
Okay, so you're mostly right. I mean, a lot of people on the internet have been saying, "Oh, we just went through Destiny beta, like true beta, and now like now we're getting to the point where it's like real Destiny."
That was a real expensive beta.
Sure, but the thing is, it's like a lot of games now. Just again, we'll talk trends. It's like it's an evolving system, right? Like, yeah, maybe the Destiny that we got originally wasn't as good as it's gonna be now because, like, a lot of games iterate on quality of life stuff, and that's really what Destiny did, right? They found a lot of the quality of life stuff, and they kind of upped the game on that and made it better. And then,
what do you mean by quality of life? For those
like, for example, not only did the light level kind of get easier to understand, but they figured out, okay, like factions. You used to have to wear a special piece of armor, turn it in to get your rep. Now it's, no, you don't have to wear that. You just pledge yourself to a faction.
Right.
Or there used to be Crucible marks and Vanguard marks. They used to be separate things that you could earn, and you would get capped each week. Guess what? It's all lumped into one now. Like, so there's a lot of these kind of like minute changes that isn't that big of a deal, but like for a player like me that's been playing, it's like, oh, I wish I had that in the beginning. So it's like anyone that starts now, they won't understand some of the trials and tribulations that we went through. And to get back to your story thing, they are trying to deal with that a little bit. Part of it is with the rewriting of Dinklage and we bring in Nolan North, but you will be able to like scan more objects in the world now that will give you more like lore behind it. They said it's not necessarily like the Grimoire cards. That still isn't in the game, which is mind-boggling because there's so much deep, rich lore in the Grimoire
and it sounds
cards.
like and it sounds like they're actually worth reading. So it's kind of strange that they still haven't put
the
them
best
in
story
yet.
stuff is in the Grimoire cards. It's crazy.
So they are trying to give you those at least nuggets where in the past where you just walk by like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Now it's like you might be able to scan a dead body, you might be able to scan like a structure, and you'll get like little snippets from either Nolan North himself or I think Eris Morn, like it'll tap back to like the tower, like it'll have this radio interaction of like, oh, so what the hell is this kind of thing? Like now you can maybe do that more often.
Sort of
than
tightening
before.
up some of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty important. Getting onto the Taken King, $40. It's their big expansion. Obviously, we've had a bunch of them around the price of $20, which is kind of a price point people still aren't really sure what they're getting for. $40 is more in line with the sort of what we expect of most expansion packs, most MMO packs and stuff like that. Alex, first of all, as a fan of Destiny, you've been playing it for a bunch, but you're also like you've been very critical, as Tay has, but probably more so critical of some of the expansion packs. What do you think about the Taken King in terms of its value prospect?
So I've actually been surprised by what they've been saying about it because last time I was on here, I talked about how predatory the pricing of Destiny has been.
Yeah.
But what they seem like, all of their rhetoric around the Taken King has sounded, in a lot of ways, very humble. Like they're acknowledging the fact that the light level system was sort of broken and it brought players down the wrong lines. They're acknowledging the fact that some of their weapons have been unbalanced, and they made a game in which everyone uses the Gallarhorn.
Yes.
And they say that isn't a good thing. They want to encourage people to experience the entire breadth of it. And so what they're doing with the Taken King, when they talk about it, they make it clear like they are going back to the story and making the story campaign something that people actually want to play.
It's going to be like twice as long as what they've added in House of Wolves, I'm hearing.
That's what they say.
We'll see.
I mean, like they have been saying that, like they are putting a significant amount of story content in there, which, to be fair, that isn't saying much relative to the rest of Destiny, but they are adding, far more cinematics in. Both Dark Below and House of Wolves had one at the intro.
Right.
This one is going to have more between each mission. They've got this whole, everything they talk about the end game after you finish the story, they haven't even discussed the details of that yet, but they keep talking about it as this huge, expansive, pretty new thing that they're doing after you get out of the story campaign. So from what they've been talking about, I'm actually really hopeful that this will be worth $40.
Like, both of you played the game a bunch. You obviously love it a lot. Tay, how important is this expansion pack to you as a fan of Destiny to keep you hooked in? Because obviously, getting certain piecemeal quests and an odd Crucible map in some of in the old expansion packs, does this need to be a sort of a larger amount of content to keep you engaged?
This one's gonna be a big test for me because it's like I still like Destiny. I still like playing it a lot, but I've dwindled. Whatever that is for me, that's probably doesn't compare to anyone else. But for me, right? So as one of the hardcore players, right? This one's gonna tell me a lot of am I gonna keep playing or am I gonna play a lot less, and am I gonna continue to lose friends after this one if this one doesn't deliver? But they are adding a lot of stuff, so now it just comes down to really let's play it. Let me see if I feel like it's worth the $40. But I will say this is gonna be whatever, but it is a good. I think if you haven't played Destiny, this is a very good value.
There's never been a better time to get hooked on.
Honestly though, I wish, in some ways, I almost wish I was able to get all of that stuff now for $60 and understand why we have to kill Atheon. I didn't understand why we had to kill Atheon the first time because I don't read the Grimoire cards because it's not in the game.
Yeah.
But now you'll know why. So, yeah.
Do you expect to play through the story mission and be left on a massive cliffhanger, Alex Newhouse?
I really hope not. I really hope this is going to lead directly into the rest of the game, directly into the King's Fall raid, and what they've also been saying they're going back and reworking all the bounties from the previous, like the base game and the previous expansions to make those tie in more. They're really trying to make it all tie together. At least they're talking about it like that, like they are, which sounds really promising to me.
All right, gentlemen, we've had you on talk about Destiny a bunch. Thank you so much again for coming on. Last question. We gave Destiny 6 out of 10?
Yes.
Is that right? 6 out of 10?
6 out of 10.
Eric Tay, Alex Newhouse, give me your score for Destiny after year 1 based on your own experiences. Eric, out of 10.
We're doing this based on GameSpot, right? So no halves, right?
No
So
halves,
just
no
pure-
halves.
okay.
No. 10-point scale, man. No zeros either.
I think it's still a 7. I think it.
Yeah?
I always thought it was a 7. I still think it is, but I can also see why people might think it's a 6. But for me, 7.
All right, Alex, what you got?
I go back and forth. When
4 or 5. So close.
When I was deep into like House of Wolves, I was like, this is an 8 or a 9. Like I was loving it. But now that I'm back, now that I've heard what they're doing and stuff, I'm sitting around at 7.
7, all right. It's going to be interesting. I hear word around the office that we might be doing a re-review after a year. I guess we'll have to wait and see if that's the case or not. Tay's shaking his head. I don't know if that means no or don't do it.
There will be probably a Taken King review.
Okay, yeah, we'll see. We'll see soon enough. Gentlemen, thanks so much for coming on. We'll be back in just a minute, but first of all, here's a trailer for the second Ollie Ollie game, Ollie Ollie 2. World of Warcraft. I still got some German left in me. Still got some Haxenhaus. What is das Bett in Flammen ziehen? I'm sorry, I have to get it out of my system.
Wer ist die Wald?
Wer ist das Warcraft? All right, let's start again. World of Warcraft came out in 2004. Since then, we've had hella bunch of expansion packs for that video game. Burning Crusade. Let's see if we can do them. Eric Tay.
Wrath of the Lich King.
Wrath of the Lich King.
Was that the
What do you
second
think,
one?
Justin
That was
Haywald?
the second one.
Burning Crusade.
Burning Crusade.
Burning
Yeah.
Crusade.
Wrath of the Lich King.
Wrath.
Yeah.
Cataclysm.
I think.
Was there something before Cata?
Panda.
was-
Then Padnas.
No. Cataclysm, then Pandas?
Cata,
Then
Panda.
Draenor?
Yeah.
You guys...
It's the Panda and Cataclysm that's throwing me off. I'm pretty sure it's no. I'm pretty sure it's Panda then Cata because I didn't play Pandaria and then I played Cataclysm.
I go back and play every one for like about 2 weeks now. I'm like, all right, I got my
pretty
bit.
sure.
And we're going to do it all over again because brand new expansion pack, Legion, is coming out next year and not a damn minute too soon, it would seem. We had a bunch of, I don't know, at the top of Draenor, I think there was like 10 million people playing. What's the down to now? About
It
5.5?
got to 10, right?
It
got to 10
yeah.
with
I
Dragon.
mean, that's the problem. Like they're announcing this at the worst possible time. Like they should have already announced this because now it sounds like it's more of. I mean, we know it's not. We know they're working on the expansions as soon as one is finished.
Yes.
But it makes it sound like, oh, now that we're down to 5 million, we need a new expansion. Like, and it makes it more reactionary rather than like here's a planned thing.
So what have they said it's in Legion? We've got a Demon Hunter, new class.
They got new artifact weapons.
Yes.
Demon Hunter's a new hero class as
Yeah,
well,
new
and so
hero
it's not
class.
like a regular class you're going to take. It's more like the one in Wrath.
That one that was added back in Wrath, yeah. I'm trying to think about myself. The level cap's been brought up
Knight?
to
Death
100.
Knight.
Death Knight, there you go. It's brought up from 100 to 110.
Yep.
And there'll be a bunch more quests. I interviewed the guys at Gamescom, and it sounded like this is almost entirely end game stuff. Like they are concentrating on the end game. Did you go back and play Draenor? Because from what I'm hearing from my mates who play WoW, the end game in that was just not
slog.
Yeah, like not much raiding, lots of just going out and like accumulating resources. How did you find it?
Well, I mean, that's it. It made it even more of kind of a mini job where you go in, you check on your garrison every day, and like it's fun in that it keeps you coming back, but it's also the kind of thing that I can't keep doing. Like I just can't invest that much daily time. Like I did enjoy like let's run through let's level back up, and that's what Legion's going to offer as well. Like that they're going to be able to start you out at 100. If you want a new character, like oh cool, now I get another character, I can bump up straight to 100, get right into new content. But is there going to be stuff to do beyond that? How long is it going to take again to level up to 110?
Well, they have a brand new area, the Broken Isles. Seems like they're running out of areas to expand into.
No, man, they just spin it back in time, and then you just reuse it.
They did that already. Remember?
I know.
They did that already back in. I think that was Lich King when they went to have all the sort of ancient time bending stuff you could do.
So what I think they're going to do eventually is just tie this world into Destiny. Much like...
That is not
Well,
happening.
Destiny's starved for content,
man.
and World of
That
Warcraft is starved for microtransactions.
the Destiny, the story, the lore, they'll come together. They're both Activision Blizzard. Those worlds will come together, and then you have a first-person...
Can't wait to play. Yeah, that Toys to Life Activision game that's come with all their properties. Erte, is this? When was the last time you played WoW?
I played Draenor.
Okay.
I did a little bit of the raid when the very first one. I did a couple bosses. It was kind of like old days again. It's just one of those things of how much time do you want to spend to beat it and like get through it, and like do you enjoy it? Like it's still one of those games where you can find a guild or a clan to join to do the raid, but it's definitely not as fun when you're not doing it with people you know. Like part of the reason why I loved WoW so much or raiding before was because you get on with your 8, 10 friends, whatever it was, and then you guys would kind of like have a little mini social gathering, but still play the game. And so when I was doing the raid with like a pickup group or something, it was just really kind of hard to get through it, and I was just like, I can't do this. And
I actually thought even the old like just LFG stuff was fun because you kind of had to go meet each other and like suss each other out. Whereas when they added in the like just looking for a party like immediate like the
dungeon
the
finder.
UI dungeon finder thing,
Yeah.
it kind of took that bit of social aspect out of it as well.
Yeah. No more like direct message of like, I'm a warrior 60 wearing this.
I'm
Do
a
you want me?
35 paladin, but I'm spec'd for the thing that you don't need.
But the thing is though, at the end of the day, even if WoW subs are down to 5 million, it's gonna spike back up to like 7 probably.
So this is the thing, right? I was talking to the two of the guys at Gamescom, and one of the things I was talking to you about was that peaking and valleying, because obviously if they reached up to 10 million and it dropped down, what they're seeing is that the highs are getting higher, but the lows are getting lower and they're getting faster. So the more expansion packs or the later expansion packs are having more people, but a faster fall off, or at least that's what they were sort of agreeing on. And the reason they were saying that is because they've got an aging demographic that they reckon is quicker to drop off and maybe go play something else. And then they're getting a lot of those people back. Like people are almost saying, oh, that's cool, I'll come back when the next expansion pack comes.
But I feel like what we're seeing, we've never gotten back up to 15 million. Like those peaks are still in the middle of the last high range. So you have like that high of over 15 million and then down to 10 million and then back up to 12 million, down to 9 million. And it just keeps, it's slowly arcing down. Like the thing that's gonna change that is when it goes free to play. And at this point, it has to be when it's free to play and not is it going to go free to play.
Do you think it goes free to play? Because one of the things that I think might happen is that whenever they are ready for that to go free to play is when Blizzard launched their new MMO.
I'm not saying that that's not going to be the case. Like I could see this being even 2 years out, 3 years out. But I think it has to happen eventually, and then that's when they're gonna. Well, I mean, are they gonna do another? Is there room for another World of Warcraft type MMO? Like thinking about this expansion and how much time we've invested, like how much these subs have gone down. No one's ever been able to replicate what World of Warcraft has done, and what that means to us, except maybe in terms of Destiny. Can they even match that again with a massively multiplayer online game?
Well, how is WoW still retaining it? Because it's not like there wasn't, like Guild Wars came out and everyone thought, oh, and you did see that initial, like, MMO people are so transient. Like, they move from one game to another all the time. We saw people go to Guild Wars and go to Guild Wars 2 and come back. We saw people go to Old Republic and come back. But, like, even if their numbers are only around the, 5-6 million range, like, that's a lot of people. If you can keep them hooked to get them a new expansion pack, surely they'll want to do it again.
Yeah, it's like this huge nostalgia feeling. It's all the time you invested in your characters. It's all of that. It's in your head. Like, I spent so much time playing this game. Here are all 10 of my characters or whatever. I have like the few friends that I still play with. Yeah, let's hop ship and play Guild Wars 2, or let's hop ship and play WildStar. Because everyone's trying to find the WoW killer. I hate using that term because everyone uses that term, but I always looked at it as WoW will never die until Blizzard decides to kill it off or make a game that kills it off, right? And so those games just don't have the hook because everyone has this thing where they compare it to WoW, and when they get to some point in that new game that they try, it's like, oh man, but you know what WoW does better than this? And then they start doing that, and then that's when the drop-off happens, and then they go back to WoW.
Yeah.
And then everyone, like you said, they'll play, they stop because they get tired of WoW or whatever, and then it's like, oh, new expansion, I'm all in. Watch, BlizzCon is gonna have that same effect. It grabs everyone every time. It was the craziest thing for me was like E3, Destiny, Taken King. It hooked like 3 or 4 people in the office back in that I don't even see really playing at all. And they're all like, oh yeah, I'm totally in. So like, obviously Activision is doing something like with marketing or something.
People always have that thing where they want to go back to the character they've made, but that doesn't happen in a lot of other MMOs. Like people, you'll max out a character in the Old Republic or in any of those games, and it doesn't have that same hook. But like, what is it just? Is there something about the world that they've made? Is there something about that? Is it the time? Is it the fact that we've been playing this game for over a decade? Like, what do you think it is about World of Warcraft specifically that gets people coming back?
For me, that's what it is. It's just that I've played it for so long that I both have memories of having played with my friends. The first MMO that I really got into was Final Fantasy XI, and that never drew me. Like that for me and playing with my friends, it was so much of a slog. And then World of Warcraft came along. It's like, this is what I wanted. Like everyone's saying it's for babies, but it's fun. It's so accessible, and like all my other friends are playing it, and like I still have those good memories, and I still want to get them back when there's a new expansion that comes out, even if it doesn't quite capture it, or even if it only captures it for a week or a month.
Usually lasts a month, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, oh yeah, let's get back into it. And then like you have your 5 friends or something that you kind of play with, and you're like, all right, sweet. And then you all level up, and then you do a couple dungeons, and then you see one guy stop. Then you see the next guy stop. Then you see the next guy stop.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, I'm the one dude sitting in like town by myself, like, oh yeah.
In Barnes chat.
Now I realized why I don't normally agree to this, and I feel like I got suckered by my friends. But it's like that mini camaraderie and the mini fact of like, oh yeah, like, when the expansion comes out, you get to experience something slightly new in WoW that you didn't get to before, and that's like, but you also get the nostalgia feeling of like, oh yeah, you get, so you get a little bit of both.
I have this thing where I go back, and I almost go back and not to even play the new stuff, but it's like when I go back and visit my hometown, and I just walk into the grounds of my old school, like just to see what they've changed, like, oh, I remember.
Just look around.
That's where that's where I did that, and that's where I scored that goal, and that's where I bought those drugs off that guy, and then. Oh look, they painted it.
Look at what's different.
Yeah, look at what's different. They're like, oh look, there's some kid buying drugs over there. That little nostalgia feeling. Last question for you guys, Justin Haywold, will you go back and play?
Oh, I mean, definitely. Yeah? No matter what, I love the limited editions. Like, as embarrassing as that is.
Oh no, do you have them all?
I have all of them. Like my shelf. They
got them.
They look so good on the shelf. Like they just look like next to my books. I don't mind showing them off. Like a girl comes over, looks at my bookshelf, is like, yeah, look at all the books and some WoW things. You don't even know the World of Warcraft. Those are classy video
She's
games.
like, what's your slash played? No one's ever said. Eric Tay, will you go back and play Legion?
I won't unless it's for work.
You liar.
That's an answer everyone can empathize with.
I did make a strong stand at one point. I didn't play Mists of Pandaria. I played a little bit of Cataclysm because my friends really pushed hard.
That was great. That was the ultimate going back and see how messed up your school is. Because it was just like, oh, I'm going to go to a place I didn't even give a shit about when I played the first time. Just as, oh, look, 1,000 needles. It's all flooded and shit. It was great.
I hope not, but we'll see.
All right. Let us know what you think about Legion and whether or not you're going to go back and play when it comes out sometime next year. We'll probably find out at BlizzCon. All right, we'll be back in just a second. First of all, we've got a new trailer for that video game about the wrestling. I talked to Daniel Bryan at E3 or at Gamescom. Yes. Will he ever wrestle again? No, I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
I think no.
I hope he will. I hope we see him back in the ring. But if we don't, You can play him in WWE 2K16. Let's check out a brand new entrance for that video game.
And approaching the ring, representing the Lucha Dragons from Mexico City, weighing in at 170 pounds, Kalisto.
This guy will settle for nothing short of a victory here tonight. Thank you for spending part of your evening with us. We think you're really going to enjoy this upcoming match.
It's been almost 15 years since we first saw the Mafia game break out onto the PC is what I played it on, the City of Lost Heaven. Mafia 2 was was a good game, was okay, wasn't too fantastic, but fans were very happy to see that Mafia 3 has been announced, Peter Brown. Although some of those fans took a little bit of exception to the, I guess, the focus, the character perhaps, and the time and the setting. First of all, Peter, Mafia 3, you saw some of it. What did you think of what you saw?
I mean, there are two sides to Mafia 3 that are worth talking about, right? I mean, there is the gameplay aspect where, you know, it is a game that's very much got the whole, you know, a lot of shooting, a lot of driving, you know, kind of does a lot of the same stuff that GTA does and stuff that Mafia has done in the past. But the series is taking a very interesting turn in terms of the setting and the themes. So it's set in 1960s, or 1968, I believe, and in New Orleans, which is a very iconic city for many reasons. But I think what most people are interested in I mean, I'd like to think for better, but also, unfortunately, for worse, is the race of the main character. You play Lincoln Clay, who is he grew up an orphan, and he sort of spent his whole life searching for a family, right? You know, he joined the church, joined gangs, ultimately ended up in the army, going to the Vietnam War, and now he's on the streets of New Orleans trying to find life in the Mafia scene, which is all really interesting, but you know, he is also a black man. And at that period in North America, especially in the South, racism, you know, segregation were big deals, and they presented a whole lot of difficulties for a man like Lincoln Clay. And so this subject matter is unusual for a video game. And based on the short amount of, you know, footage that I saw of the game, I don't know if Mafia 3 is gonna do this subject matter justice. But it could. I mean, we have to wait and see.
It seems like the sort of era and the sort of story that you would really need to dive into head first to do it justice. What about it, what you've seen so far, sort of let you think that perhaps they're using it more as window dressing or than really it being like the focus? What's giving you that impression right now? It's a scary prospect for any developer, you gotta say as well.
Dude, it's difficult for me to even talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, like I certainly don't represent anyone except people like myself who have my own perspective, and that is not who the main character is. But you know, to me, I can't say that I think it's just window dressing right now. I don't know that, but the issues of race come up at many points during the demo that I saw, which you know included you know racial slurs being you know thrown at Lincoln, at other characters. And it was done in such a way where the people doing it were pretty nonchalant about it, which I can only imagine was what it was like back then. I don't think that they're using that just to sort of raise alarms and stir up controversy. I think there's a really interesting discussion to have here. And you know, it's for a video game to be something that is, one, a medium for storytelling, but also a medium for, you know, at least in the case of Mafia, like action and gameplay and stuff like that, that's where I see perhaps the biggest opportunity for this to fall apart. You know, frankly, the gameplay to me compared to the story set and the setting is, I almost don't care. Like, I think there's a really interesting story to be told here.
Well, for sure, like African Americans have been not very represented in video games history. I remember probably growing up for me in Ireland, maybe the first one I really recognized was CJ in San Andreas. And then you've got a situation in which your African American character is one that's involved in criminal activities in
Right.
gang culture in a fictional version of California or whatnot. We've seen it in Assassin's Creed. We've seen more African Americans. Over the course of the past couple of years, we've just seen greater diversity, or we've seen a lean towards greater diversity in video games in relation to gender and race as well. I want to talk to you about one aspect of this, which is that and I kind of hate talking about it because we're basically like recognizing what should perhaps be ignored, but like, one of the things I noticed on the video we put up at Gamescom and on your story as well is this like vitriol or this backlash to it being used, almost as if the idea of having an African American by its definition as a main character was some sort of plea to appeal to like the left audience, or is some sort of like a bending of the knee to some sort of liberal ideas. What do you think about that? Does it say more to do with sort of most Caucasians that we immediately jump to that like you can't tell a story about the Mafia because it's about the Italian mob with a black person?
I don't think it's one thing. From my perspective, I think it's partially fear on behalf of the audience because they might not want to be confronted with these issues. I saw several people saying, great, another game where I'm going to be told that I'm a racist or this and that.
Yeah.
And that's not why this is important. It's not to tell white people that they shouldn't be proud of who they are or whatever. But what this is an opportunity for a group of society that is very much important as any other group to have a chance to have their story told and examined. And you know what? Their perspective understood. So to see people sort of backlash at this, I think, yes, comes from a place of fear. And you know, it's also immaturity. People are veiling their argument in, you know, these are Mafia games. Like, why isn't an Italian protagonist?
Why isn't Joe Pesci every video game's protagonist?
Right. Look, I think there's no place for hate in any part of society. It just doesn't do anyone any good. And if you don't identify with the character, then that's maybe not a game that you need to concern yourself with.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of people who are interested in seeing these different stories be told and participating in these discussions. So I implore people to just have an open mind and really just think about what opportunities this game presents that other games just fail to.
I guess last question about this: do you think we will start to see? I guess what we tend to see a lot of the time now is that there is more diversity in games, not just in the main protagonist, but in terms of the stories we're seeing, in terms of the different experiences we're seeing. Everyone's gone to the Rapture came out this week. I remember when Gone Home came out a couple of years ago, the amount of vitriol that was getting poured at that game at the time, saying this isn't a game. We're seeing a bit of that with their latest game, but it's not to the same level. So do you think that we are slowly but surely creeping towards a medium in which these types of things can be talked about and these types of games can be announced and it's celebrated, and less so than that, we're seeing less of this sort of weird, overly sensitive backlash to it? Do you think we're getting there, or does it feel like it's the same as it was 5-10 years ago?
I think we're in the midst of the struggle that will turn the tide. I don't think we've gotten to the point where we're going to be able to tell these stories without there being some sort of controversy behind the announcement. People will continue to be upset about it until it becomes something that isn't an exception to the rule, but it's part of the general, flow of the industry. And yeah, we're probably going to see some people, try to make games because they want more diversity, and that's fine. Like, that's a worthy cause. And I think to shy away from something like that is, I don't see the value in shying away from trying to welcome more people into gaming. So I don't think it's ever going to be fair representation for all groups in society at any point. I think the majority will still, unfortunately, the majority that want to just play like a white male, will continue to get what they want. But I really hope games like Mafia can come out and handle these discussions properly and show people that these are things worth having and worth discussing. But I don't think we're at that point yet where a game like this can come out and not be judged by the color of the main character's skin. That is obviously still an issue, and who knows what it's going to take.
Yeah, a tumultuous time for games, an exciting time as well. Clearly, we're seeing some games coming out there and pushing out the boat. It's not not a damn sign too soon as well. Peter Brown, thank you so much for coming on, talking about
I'm not
Mafia.
leaving. I'm staying here.
You sticking around? What are we going to talk about
Sorry.
next?
Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy, just as well he's here, because I got a new laptop and they've just locked me out. So I don't know what the running order is. Yo, Mary, what's the next trailer? It's for Call of Duty. White male protagonist, let's roll it. Call of Duty. Final Fantasy 15. Those Final Fantasy fans have been looking forward to this bad boy for a long time. Looks like they won't have to wait that much longer. Alexa Ray Korea. Peter Brown and his super loud laptop are here on. What's going on there? What's going on? It's blazing up there.
I don't know.
Yep.
Boy.
That word is really pushing this Core i7 processor.
Sure is. Fry an egg on that bad boy. Final Fantasy 15. Excited?
Yeah?
Excited?
Yeah.
Tell me about what happened at Gamescom. You went to interview a gentleman who might have been making that game, and he might have slipped a little bit of details to you.
Yeah, Hajime Tabata is the director of Final Fantasy Type 0 and now Final Fantasy 15. He took over the Versus 13 project back in 2012 and then made it 15. And yeah, we spoke a lot about where the game is, how long we're going to have to wait to play it. And this came after a presentation that him and his team gave at Gamescom, which was very lackluster in terms of new information. They promised all this great stuff, and they showed a short story trailer, they revealed an enemy and showed a main character whose name is the black-haired girl.
I mean, if
That's her name?
they call her the straight black hair girl,
As in her hair is straight?
her hair's straight and,
Okay.
and it's black. I have to say, I've been waiting for this game for 10 years. That presentation inspired no confidence in me that that game is coming out next year at
Really?
all. They have a character that they refer to internally by her hair color, so she doesn't have a name. They still don't know. I talked to Tabata as well back in January, and he said, you know, airships, we're working on the technology. We don't know if we can do it. They said the same thing at Gamescom. They said, well, we can get him the height that a bird would fly, but we don't really know. And they showed one enemy, which looks like it's in an area very similar to what we've seen in episode Dusk.
Is this the enemy?
This is the enemy. It's
Look at this
a
thing.
Malboro,
Ew.
a Final Fantasy staple.
Kill
And they didn't. The trailer was 2.5 minutes of a guy holding his kid. Wasn't
Sure
really
was.
anything.
But that kid looked so real.
And it looks
And the
like
grief looked so good.
The grief
and
looks
also,
good.
that guy, it's fucking raining, man. Like, don't hold your kid out. Get your kid damp.
I don't know. And like, I don't know. Like the trailer was
Is
just
that,
so short.
is that the straight black hair girl? Because I think they need to redo that
that's
texture.
Not her.
All right.
I don't know. The fact that there's a main character without a name and there's we've seen very little new areas and that they don't know whether or not they can use the technology that they have available to them to make something work. 10 years into the dev cycle, I don't know. I'm skeptical.
But
I want it.
that would
I want it.
contradict what we heard straight from the
Yeah.
horse's mouth, Peter. So you asked him whenabouts we'll see it.
He said, I can definitely tell you it's not this year. And then he rambled on a bit, and then he said, I can certainly tell you you don't have to wait until 2017. So that obviously, you know, that says 2016. We put up the story saying that. Square didn't jump down our throats or anything. PR double checked before we printed it, so, you know, we're good. You know, one of the things that people are sort of trying to wrap their head around is the different percentages that Tabata gives out.
Right.
At TGS last September, he said the game was 55% done. At Gamescom, during his presentation, he said 65.
Oh.
So that makes it sound like, you know, 10% a year.
Early access.
Right, but
2016.
so I asked him, you know, what have you done over the last year? And he was like, all right, before we talk about what's been happening over the last year, let me just clear up the thing about the numbers. He said, normally when we describe it, we think, like in terms of numbers, we think about it internally as how long have we got until the mastering of the game?
Okay.
Right? So if you think about that, that's 65% until the game is actually like printed.
Right.
So 2012 to now, that would be, what? That's like 3 years, maybe a handful of months.
Yeah.
So if you think about, you give it another year, like let's say a year and a half, right? Just to be fair, like give it to December. That could happen without those percentages. But when he's talking about the actual content of the game itself, he told me that it's over 70%.
Okay.
I know. What? So it's
Yeah.
65% ready to print, but what's in the game is 70% done.
In terms of assets,
in terms of the
and
assets and the
models
programming. The things that we're missing here are, first of all, you need to localize the game. This is, and I'm sort of spoiling a news story we're going to put up. This is the first numbered Final Fantasy game that they are planning to release simultaneously worldwide.
Oh, wow.
No way.
Yes.
Dude.
Breaking news.
Yes, actually, yeah. So they still have to do all the localization in that regard. And they still have to like master all the discs, right? And ship those out all over the world to get ready to go.
QA perhaps is part of that as
QA
well?
is part of that, right. So yeah, the content stuff is worrisome when they're talking about airships maybe being a thing, maybe not. But he did state that it could come as DLC. And just this morning, they were talking about perhaps working with the Avalanche Studios to sort of get their tech from Just Cause to give the game greater verticality. Now, implementing tech from one engine to another is not really something you can do overnight. I think he was probably saying something along the lines of, hey, we've had these thoughts, we're having those discussions, but look, I don't expect they're going to put airships in before this game is shipped. I asked Tabata, why are you the right man for the job? After so many years, people have so many concerns, why should they trust you? And he said that my strongest skill is setting a timeline and optimizing a team, getting things done with certain goals in mind, and then proceeding forward. So it sounds like he has a very strict militant approach to how he's managing this project. When you compare that to Nomura, who, bless his heart, is a recluse, is known for not communicating well with his teams, and works on like 6 major projects at a time. Tabata is in a great position to actually buckle down and say, all right, deep breath. Here's when we want to ship the game. Here are the milestones we need to hit for every aspect of the game. Let's just rally together and do it. Sound good, everybody?
Sounds great. Also, let's get Rico Rodriguez in this game, just for a laugh.
Why not? Here's my question, though, and I don't know if you talked to him about this, but something else that sort of makes me really skeptical about this is they released Dusque, the first one. 3 months later, they released Dusque 2.0, and Dusque 2.0's combat was so different. They fixed the targeting, they fixed a lot of other stuff, they fixed speed, and then they added a bunch of attacks.
Right.
So the fact that they went back and then changed all of the combat based on player feedback in this 2-hour demo, like, based on if the game is done at all, would they go back and change all of the combat in the game? Like, is that simple to do? Is that hard? Like, why did they do that?
I mean, so combat is obviously taking place like in a broad range of environments against many different enemies, but at its core, it really is a singular system that has variables that can be tweaked. So even if they've got combat set for the entire game, like let's just pretend all the environments are made, maybe they don't have textures, all the combat scenarios are there, one tweak to the system will come into effect across the entire game. So if they're using Episode Dusque as sort of a focus test, sample, right, to kind of get people's opinions, they can tweak something, and although we only see it reflected in that small demo, that is a thing that will be, impacted across the entire game.
It's kind of crazy to think about them doing that. Like, I was actually rather impressed by how quickly they managed to change the combat, because, okay, obviously they're in that sort of it's that bubble of that area, but you then have to then QA every single instance of what you changed across the entire game again.
Think about it this way. There are bridge simulators where you construct a bridge and send a car or a truck over it.
Yeah, I was playing them on the bathroom this morning.
Right, so it's just as simple as changing the girders on your bridge and getting a different result, right? It's just iteration. So much of the content creation in this game, the time is spent in things like the visual style, like how do we set up this world, but when it comes down to the things that are programmed, the things based on hard numbers, such as the flow and speed of combat, that's the thing that really is just iterating certain variables. You have to balance it therein.
And you have to make sure that, one of those girders that was or let's just say, a piece of land that was in this game that wasn't really set perfectly right, but this build worked.
Yeah.
Like maybe when you change one of those variables, suddenly it all fucking falls apart again. Like,
it's
you're kind of worried that if they've got all the content on it, then they're tweaking all these systems.
I'm not saying it's like a watertight system, right? And every game is different in this regard, but if you really think about it, they're not having to change every single combat scenario one by one by one by one by one.
Yeah.
They got to QA test their stuff, and you can break things very easily. But at the same time, if they do it incremental steps, there's a good chance that they can actually iterate in a logical, sound way that won't break the game.
Interesting. It's been a fascinating road for development. Looking forward to seeing it. 2016. One question about that. You asked them at one stage when what they were originally targeting was.
No.
During the interview. Did I just make that up?
I think you made it up.
Just make that up. Am I making up things
I
again?
mean, didn't it want? They said when they announced 13 and Versus 13 and Agito, which became Type 0, that they wanted them all to come out. I think it was like around the same time.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think if we look at this now, like at 2012, things started over. All their previous statements didn't hold water anymore. And based on what Tabata told me, which is in line with his description of his own strengths, is when he took over the project, then the timeline was set.
That's what I was thinking.
And
Sorry.
within that timeline, they are exactly where they hope to be to hit that release date, which he told me was before 2017.
Cool.
So I can only assume that he's not lying to me because I'm a trustworthy guy and maybe that's my own fault.
I guess we'll find out soon enough. Lex Ray Korea, Peter Brown, thank you very much for coming on. 2016 for Final Fantasy 15. Let us know if you think it's going to come out there in the comments below, and then check back in and say 18 months and see if you were right, or if you were wrong. You were probably wrong. That's the lobby for this week. But first of all, we've got the best giveaway ever. Check out this Division snow globe.
A snow globe?
It's a snow globe from the Division.
Oh boy.
Oh my God, nuclear fallout. You hold that.
All right.
We're not just giving away a fucking snow globe, don't worry.
How do I?
We've also got this sick pair of headphones.
I'm going to take the snow globe.
Sure.
Lexa you get the other sick pair of headphones.
Oh, 2 sick pairs of headphones.
You're not going to win both of them. They're part of 2 different packs we're giving away right here on GameSpot.com.
Yeah, but
It's like I'm
Who
really
gets
on
the
the set of the
snow
lobby.
It's yes, look, he's figured
Wait.
out how to use headphones. That's what you do. You put one on one ear, and then you put the other on the other ear.
Do you get the snow globe with both of them, or just one of them, or alone?
Just one of them.
Oh.
There's a bunch of other stuff. We've got
Cool.
MLB 15 show, Just Cause 3 t-shirts. Oh, snow globe you get with both. Take it back.
Woo woo!
Take it back. Call of Duty Black Ops 3 Sunny G's. Put them on your eyes. Look like real rad. Call of Duty comic book. Loads of shit. Look at that. Yeah. Zoom in. Get them. GameSpot.com/Mega Monday giveaways. Mega Monday giveaways. The capital letters are optional. That's it. Just keep crash zooming. Never not be crash zooming. There you go. That's perfect.
Oh boy.
Go there, fill in the forms. If you want to follow on Instagram or something, I don't know, the pages look crazy. I don't know how forums work nowadays. That was HTML days when the last time I saw that. You can win one of these things. Headphones, snow globes, t-shirts, sunglasses.
Or me.
Or Peter Brown. We're giving away our new reviews editor in a shocking turn. Help me. We want Kevin back. Kevin, if you're watching, come back. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
On your new position.
Yeah,
much deserved.
it's big shoes to fill.
Yeah, it's a good thing they didn't just send you to Germany in your first week.
Yeah,
Oh, wait.
awesome.
That's the show for this week. Thank you very much to everyone in the back. Mary Kish, Josh Shaw, Eric Tay, Dan Mahork. Anyone else back there? That's it. Ty Root, where you at? I bought Ty that bottle of whiskey. He's probably off drinking that right now, the son of a bitch. Make sure you subscribe to us on the YouTubes. We'll be back live next Tuesday, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on GameSpot.com. Play some video games. A bunch of cool shit came out, and we'll see you then. Adios!